Hi. So I've had going through my mind the last few weeks a lot of the stories that I have from my ministry trips in various countries. But one lesson, one story that I want to share today is from my time in Mozambique. I was in Mozambique in November of 2013, so a little bit more than 4 years ago. Now, from where I live in the Vancouver area of Canada to Mozambique, it's a very long way. I think if we were to put a stick into Vancouver and poke it through the globe all the way on the other side, Mozambique would be pretty much the complete opposite side of the world. To get there, I flew from Vancouver to New York, five and a half hours from New York to South Africa. Well, and then I had like a 8-hour layover or something, very long time to wait. And then from New York to South Africa was a 14 and a half hour flight. And then from Johannesburg, South Africa to Beira, Mozambique, it's about an hour and a half, not very long. I rested in Beira for a couple days, day and a half, 2 days, and then we took a train north, about another 8 hours by train north. And then from when we got off the train, then we stayed in a village in that area, a pastor and church that the pastor I was with knew. It was this amazing evening, laying on the sand with the stars out and the moon out and palm trees outlined. It was quite something. But then from there, the next day we took 3 hours then to get to the village where we were heading to. So a long lot of travel, many days, many hours. And quite a bit of funds too. It costs almost a third more to travel to Mozambique from Vancouver than to most of the other countries that I go to. So it was quite a bit of an extra expense. But we got there, and that first evening I brought the evening message, as I normally do. This is really, really normal. I don't remember what I spoke on, but at the end of the message, of course, once I was done preaching, the pastor wanted me to pray for the people, and the people wanted me to pray for them. And this is really normal as well. Usually everywhere I go, people want me to pray for them. Now, I love praying for people. But in the weeks before this trip, the Lord had been really compelling and convicting me that really what I needed to be doing was teaching the people how to pray. Now, this completely resonated with my own spirit because it's quite ridiculous, quite frankly, to come as a visiting pastor or preacher and be the one to be praying for people, right? It's not really sustainable. There have been lines of 150 people wanting me to pray for them. And while I have found the grace of the Lord to do that at those times, and in fact a real delight in this thing of the Spirit, it's not a sustainable method or thing for them, because what are they going to do then when the visitor leaves, or when the big pastor goes home, or when the prayer person isn't there anymore? People, the body of Christ, need to be able to pray for each other. So this is what I tried to do that night. I tried to teach them how to pray for each other. It was a dismal failure. It didn't work at all, in the slightest. Even my translator, Whiskey, once I had given up trying to instruct them, he kept going a few more minutes, and he was trying to compel and encourage and help them to understand that they could pray for each other. But it just didn't take at all. The people just came and they just stood there waiting for me to pray for them. So we didn't pray for anybody that evening, and we get back to the house where we're all staying, and the pastor and his right-hand man were there, and I realized, I should probably explain why I didn't pray for his people, because this is a bit of a big deal, right? It's a bit of an insult. Wouldn't be sure what's going on, why I wouldn't pray. So I began to just explain basically what I've just explained here, that the Lord had been really compelling me to teach people to pray for each other, to pray for themselves. Alongside there had been this prophetic word from a pastor, a friend of mine in Kenya, talking about basically, don't teach the body of Christ to follow the leaders, to hear the leaders. Teach them to hear the voice of the Lord, follow the Lord. to obey Christ and not them. And so I explained these things, and at the end of my sharing, the first words the pastor said were, "You mean the people can pray?" And I'll never forget that moment. It broke my heart. That not only did the people not know they could pray, but the pastors didn't know the people could pray. What I came to find in my weeks in Mozambique, how it occurred to me anyways, was that the religious oppression in that country had been so great that the body of Christ had been stripped, had been robbed of its common sense with the Lord, the ability just to walk with God, to know His voice, to be in sync with the Spirit. And so what happened on that trip was that these conversations opened up. After my sharing that with the pastor, and after his question about the people can pray, that turned into 3+ hours of questions and answers and dialogue that night. We had one single flashlight, stood it up on the table, and it shone up onto the ceiling, and the 5 of us, I think it was 5 of us, sat around that table, and we just conversed for 3 hours and more. And then the next day, the team I was with in the afternoon, one of our conversations, the pastor I was with, he had asked about, after leaders have an affair, can they still be on leadership? A married pastor, a married leader, does he remain in leadership even after taking on a second wife? And I had said to the pastor who had invited me there, I said to him, well, you're actually asking the wrong question. I said, what about the first wife? What about these women? What about trust that's been broken? What does restoration look like? And that the question about does a leader stay in leadership is sort of one of the last questions to ask, because that has a lot to do with the heart and process of the people and the team and the congregation and that family. So I gave my answer, which of course was nothing like what the pastor had been asking. At the end of that, my translator, Whiskey, he begins to laugh, and he says, okay, tonight, let's not bring a message, let's have questions and answers. And so that's what we did. That evening, a gathering, we just had a panel of us with questions and answers, and there's a lot more conversation. And in the midst of all these conversations, I could hear God chuckling, giggling. And I could hear His Spirit saying this, wow, we've spent so much effort to get you here. Such a long way you've come. So much money. But how perfect is this? And how great is this to bring this extravagant gift of conversation and wisdoms and clarity to these people here. And my own spirit had a really similar sort of sense about it. I was so satisfied. There was such a satisfaction in those encounters and in those hours spent just talking about life and relationships and leadership. And my own sense was, even after that first conversation in the middle of the night, 3+ hours around a small flashlight, wow, I came all this way, 5.5 hours, Vancouver to New York, 14.5 hours, New York to South Africa, an hour and a half north to Beira, Mozambique, 8 hours north by train, 3 hours into the village by truck. And how great it is to have had this conversation. And if this is all the work that there is for me in Mozambique, I'd be really okay with that. And I could go home completely satisfied at what had been accomplished and what the Lord had done within us and through us and for us and for them. So it was this is where I learned that God doesn't equate things the same way we do. And where, the way we would equate value isn't the way God equates value. I've had people say to me, well, Cyndy, you need to only go places where, 500 people are going to hear you. And I say, well, no. I mean, maybe, yeah, okay. So I've been places, 500 people hearing me. But that's only one piece of the work, maybe. Because really, it's about whatever the Lord wants to make happen. And I don't have to prove to God that we've done something. I only have to follow his leading. And so God has been teaching me this in a number of different ways. I've got some other stories as well, but I'll share those on another time, about this realization that really my job is surrender and obedience. And that my body doesn't belong to me. Like, this frame and the words he would put in my mouth aren't my own. They belong to him. And so if he wants to take this body on this long, long journey to Mozambique, and if he wants to spend a third more money to get me there, and if he wants me to sit around a small flashlight lit room in the middle of a village in rural Mozambique next to the Zambezi River, then that's his business, and I'll go with it. I'll go and be there as a conduit and as a I don't even know what the word is, just as a extension of who he is in this world. Like, I'll show up and I'll be his hands and I'll be his feet and I'll be his body and I'll be his mouthpiece, because that's the job. There's no other job. And so I'm glad to do it, even if it doesn't make sense in the way that we equate things. We don't have to prove numbers for dollars. That actually God has this extravagant heart. And if he wants to take a leadership coach from the west coast of Canada to the exact other side of the world and pour some hope and encouragement and some restoration into their lives and into their awareness in this small village in Mozambique, then who am I, who are we to argue with that? But we go with it, because this is God's thing. It's not ours. And so we don't have to figure it the same way that we're used to figuring things. So this is one of the things that I learned in Mozambique, and it's been just replaying through my heart and my spirit, and how great the Lord is, and how extravagant his love is, and that we're stewards of his heart, of his dreams, and that we move forward in his strength and by his breath. And everything else comes into place after that. So, bless you today. We'll see you again later.